The sandstorm had passed, leaving the desert plain dry and silent. Broken pieces of metal and burnt stone scattered around the valley, remnants of a battle long forgotten. In the middle of it all, a figure stumbled forward with slow, weak steps. She was not human. Her skin was pale, blue, soft, and patterned like mist on glass. Her eyes were bright green, glowing faintly in the twilight. She wore torn clothes that looked like they once belonged to someone of importance. Now they were dirty and shredded. Her name was Alari. Her people, the Sreya, had once lived in a proud city on a green moon. Now that moon was gone, destroyed. She was the last of her group, maybe the last of her kind. For days she wandered the wastelands of this backwater planet, searching for help. Alari spotted smoke in the distance and moved toward it. Her feet bled from walking on sharp rocks. Her hands were scratched. Her stomach growled with hunger. Her breath came out in short, painful gasps. When she reached the small human colony, she almost collapsed. Lights blinked on the rooftops. Machines hummed. People walked past her, but no one stopped. No one looked her in the eye. She stepped into the main square and stood near the food stand. The smell of cooked vegetables made her dizzy. Her legs trembled. She looked at the man behind the counter and whispered, "Please, food." The man glanced at her, then turned away. "We don't give out free rations." "Trade only," he said without kindness. "I have nothing," she said. "No goods, no tech, no credits." He shrugged. "Then you don't eat." Alari looked down at her body, her thin arms, her bruised skin. She turned to the crowd and tried again. Her voice shook. "My body is the only currency I have. Please be gentle." The words came from her language, but her translator changed them into human tongue. She didn't mean what the words sounded like. To her people it meant, "I offer my life in full trust." But the translation was poor, and the crowd misunderstood. People turned and stared. But one man in the crowd didn't laugh or walk away. He stepped forward slowly. He wore dusty overalls and had oil stains on his hands. His name was Nolan. He looked into Alari's tired eyes and saw something no one else had seen. He didn't speak right away. Instead, he took off his jacket and placed it gently over her shoulders. "You're cold," he said softly, "and hungry. Come with me." Alari blinked. "But I have nothing." "You don't need to give anything," he said. "Just walk." He led her to a small building near the edge of the colony. Inside was a cluttered workshop filled with tools, wires, and half-fixed machines. A soft bed lay in the corner, still, warm from when he last slept. He helped her sit down and poured her a cup of clean water. She drank too fast and coughed. He waited, then handed her some food-soft bread and a bit of soup. She ate slowly this time, trying not to cry. Nolan watched. Her butt didn't ask questions. He simply said, "I'm Nolan. I fix things." "Ilari," she said, "I don't understand you. You gave me food and shelter, but I gave you nothing." He sat on the floor near her, stretching his legs out. "Maybe one day you'll help someone else. That's enough for me." She stared at him. Her people believed every action must be paid for. Giving without return was rare, sometimes punished. Nolan's way felt strange, but warm. She lowered her head and whispered, "I'm sorry for the words I said. I didn't mean them like that." He gave a small smile. "I guessed that. Translators mess things up all the time." "Don't worry." Silence filled the room for a while. The storm outside had returned, dust tapping against the windows. Ilari wrapped the jacket around herself and looked around the workshop. Machines she didn't understand sat in piles. Some glowed faintly, others sparked. "You build? Repair?" "Mostly," Nolan said. "This colony breaks down. Every other week I want to help," she said. "Please, let me work." He looked surprised but nodded. "Sure, but only after you've rested. You're no good to me if you pass out on the soldering board." She didn't know what a soldering board was, but she smiled for the first time in days. That night, as she lay on the small bed and watched the ceiling fan spin, she thought about how strange humans were. They had rules, yes, but they also had space for kindness. She thought she would feel shame. Instead, she felt something new. Hope. Ilari woke up to the sound of clinking tools and the soft hum of machines. Sunlight peeked through the dusty windows of the workshop. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the jacket folded neatly beside her bed, the clean cup on the table, and the scent of something warm in the air. Nolan stood by his workbench, welding a broken panel. Sparks danced in the air, lighting up the room in flashes. He looked focused, his hands steady. When he noticed Ilari was awake, he smiled. "Morning," he said, wiping his hands on a cloth. "Feeling better?" Ilari nodded slowly. "Thank you for everything. You were nearly collapsed yesterday," he said. "I wasn't going to leave you out there like that." "You could have," she said softly, "but I didn't." He walked over and handed her a small plate, with a slice of something soft and sweet. "This is a human breakfast?" she asked, looking at it. "Close enough," he said with a chuckle. She took a bite and smiled. The taste was simple but comforting. After eating, Ilari stood up and walked around the workshop. The machines were unlike the ones from her world, some large, others small, all of them in some stage of repair. Wires dangled, screens blinked, and tools were scattered everywhere. "You said I could help," she reminded him. "And you can," Nolan said. "But slowly. You'll need to learn first." Ilari nodded. Learning felt better than waiting, and it gave her a way to repay the kindness he'd shown. Nolan began with the basics: how to use a screwdriver, how to test a wire, how to identify broken parts. Ilari listened closely. Her fingers were thin but steady. For balance and detail, within hours, she managed to fix a small fan on her own. It clicked back to life, spinning quietly. "Not bad," Nolan said, impressed. Eyes lit up. "I fixed something." "You did," he said with a grin. "You're already better than half the crew out there," she smiled, feeling useful. For the first time in weeks, days passed like this. Ilari helped more with each task, organizing tools, welding broken plates, even repairing a faulty comms device. She didn't ask for anything, and Nolan didn't expect payment. Their routine became quiet, steady, and filled with purpose. They shared meals and stories. Ilari spoke about her lost world, the floating gardens, the crystal rivers, the voices of her people that sang to the stars. Nolan listened closely. "Sounds like a beautiful place." "It was," she whispered. "I don't know if anyone else survived. Maybe you'll find them one day," he said gently. "Maybe," she said, though she didn't believe it. Still, his words comforted her. One evening, after repairing a broken generator, they sat outside the workshop, watching the twin moons rise. "I've never met a Sreya before," Nolan said. "We don't travel far," she replied. "We believe in staying close too. Home, two roots." "And yet here you are," he said. "Home is gone," she whispered. "Now, I just follow what's left inside me." Nolan nodded and didn't press further. He had learned that silence sometimes meant more than words, but not everyone in the colony was as kind as Nolan. Rumors started spreading. A few people saw Ilari helping in the workshop and assumed she was trading favors. Old minds twisted the truth. Whispers filled the markets and halls. They said she was here for her own gain, that she used her looks to trick a human. Ilari heard them. The words weren't always direct, but the eyes, the stares, the half-hidden smirks, they all said enough. One morning she found a note left at the door of the workshop. It read, "Get out, alien. We don't need your kind." She stood frozen, the paper shaking in her hands. Nolan saw her face and came over. When he read the note, his jaw tightened. "Who did this?" he asked. Ilari shook her head. "I don't know. But maybe they're right. I shouldn't be here." Nolan looked straight at her. "Shh, don't say that. Your people don't want me. I'm one of my people," he said firmly. "And I say you belong here." "Shh," she asked. "I'm not one of you. I have nothing." He came with empty hands and said foolish words. He stepped closer, calm but serious. "You worked harder than anyone. You learned fast. You fixed things. You helped me? You didn't lie." You didn't take anything that wasn't offered freely. That's more than most can say. Tears filled her eyes, but she held them back. I don't want to be a burden. You're not, he said. And if anyone thinks you are, they can come talk to me. Ilari nodded slowly. Still, she felt uneasy. That night, while Nolan slept, she packed a small bag and quietly stepped outside. The air was cold, and the stars above looked farther than ever. She didn't want to cause trouble. She didn't want Nolan to be blamed for helping her. As she turned to leave the colony, a voice called out behind her. Going somewhere? She turned. Nolan stood by the door, arms crossed, eyes tired but kind. I thought I was being quiet. She said. You were, he said, but I know my workshop. It feels empty when you're not in it. I didn't want you to suffer because of me. Nolan walked up and put a hand gently on her shoulder. I offered you food and shelter because I believed in something. In you, and I still do. You don't walk away just because others don't understand. Ilari looked at him. I don't know how to stay. Then let me show you. For the first time in a long while, Ilari didn't feel like a lost traveler. She felt seen. She felt wanted. It's not for what she could offer, but for who she was. And that made her stay. The next morning, Ilari returned to the workshop with quiet steps. She had not run away, but part of her still felt like a stranger. She feared the eyes, the whispers, and the rumors. But Nolan treated her like nothing had changed. He handed her a tool and said, Generator's acting up again. Want to take a look? She nodded and got to work beside him. They fixed the generator together. Larry's hands moved with skill, her memory sharp from all the practice. The workshop once felt strange to her. Now it felt like a second skin. When the machine whirred back to life, she smiled. Good work, Nolan said. You're a natural. As they cleaned up, a voice called from outside the shop. You in there, Nolan? Nolan stepped to the door. Two men stood outside. They wore colony uniforms and had serious looks on their faces. Colonial Officer Brent, Nolan said, recognizing one of them. Everything all right? The officer glanced past Nolan and saw Ilari. His expression tightened. We need to talk, Brent said. About your guest. Nolan didn't move. Talk here. What? Brent looked uncomfortable. Fine. Word around the colony is that the alien's taking advantage. Some folks say you've been giving her free tools, free food, more than you should. Nolan kept his voice calm. She works. She fixes more machines than anyone else in this place. She's not registered, Brent said. Not in our system. No trade ID, no background, no entry permit. The council wants her removed until we can clear things. Ilari stood up behind Nolan, her hands shaking. I have no permit, she said. Because I have no world left. I came here to survive. I didn't mean to cause problems. Brent sighed. Maybe not, but rules are rules. Nolan took a step forward. So you'd kick her out just to satisfy a few cowards who can't see? Past species. This isn't about species, Brent said. It's about order. Nolan folded his arms. Fine, then let's talk to the council. Brent blinked. You want a hearing? Yes, Nolan said. Let them see her work. Let them meet her. If they still want to send her away after that, then fine, but they should see who she really is. Brent looked uncertain, but finally nodded. You've got 2 days. After that, we bring it to vote. As the officers walked away, Ellery sat down slowly. Her chest felt tight. This will make things worse, she said. They'll never accept me. Nolan sat beside her. Then we'll show them the truth, the real you. Ilari said nothing for a moment. Then she asked, Do you really think it will work? He nodded. I've seen how you work. How you learn. You've done more for this place than most who were born here. The next day, Ilari spent hours preparing. She wrote down every repair she had helped with. She polished the machines she worked on. She practiced her speech in front of an old Mira. Even though her voice trembled, Nolan helped her choose simple clothes, clean and neat. He stood beside her as she practiced speaking again. Remember, he said, you're not here to beg. You're here to show who you are. But what if I say the wrong thing? She asked. then speak from your heart. When the day of the meeting came, the council gathered in the central hall. It was a tall building made of old metal sheets and clear glass. Colonists filled the seats, many whispering as Ilari entered. She walked with quiet strength, standing beside Nolan. The head counselor, a tall woman named Mara, tapped her fingers on the table. "We're here to discuss the alien guest," Mara said. "Do you wish to speak, Ilari of the Sreya?" Ilari took a deep breath and stepped forward. Her voice was soft at first, but it grew steadier. "I came to your world with nothing. I was alone, tired, afraid. When I asked for help, most turned away, but one did not. He gave me food, a place to sleep, and later, a chance to work." Looking around the room, "I didn't come to steal or trick anyone. I didn't come to take, I came to learn, to be useful, to live." She held up a small device she had fixed herself. "This was broken when I arrived. Now it works again, just like me." Mara leaned forward. "Do you believe your presence benefits, though?" "Colony." Ilari nodded. "Yes. Not because of my name or where I'm from, but because of what I do." Nolan stepped up beside her. "I vouch for her, not just as a mechanic, but as a person." A silence fell over the room. Whispers passed between counselors. Finally, Mara spoke. "We've heard enough. We'll vote now." After a few tense minutes, the result was announced. The vote is in favor. Ilari may stay. She will be granted a work permit under Nolan's guidance and watched under standard colony rules. Relief swept over Ilari like cool rain. She turned to Nolan, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. He gave her a small nod. "You earned it." As they left the hall, some colonists still stared, but many looked with new eyes. A few even smiled. Ilari felt something shift deep inside her. For the first time, she wasn't just surviving, she was standing on her own. After the council's decision, life in the colony slowly began to change for Ilari. Her work permit meant she was no longer just a guest. She was now part of the community. But acceptance was a slow process. Some people still whispered behind her back, while others nodded politely when they passed. Nolan remained her greatest support. Each day, he showed her new tasks, teaching her how to maintain the colony's machines and how to speak the human language better. Ilari was a quick learner, and soon she could communicate clearly without the help of her translator. One afternoon, as they worked repairing a water purifier, a loud alarm sounded across the colony. A ship was approaching. Colonists gathered near, the landing pad's eyes wide with curiosity and fear. The ship was unlike any they had seen before. It was sleek and black, with sharp edges and glowing lights that pulsed softly, and his heart quickened. She recognized the ship's design instantly. It belonged to her people. "The Sreya." "That's impossible," Nolan said, looking at her with concern. "Why would they come here?" Ilari felt a mix of hope and fear. Maybe her people had come to rescue her, or maybe they had come for something else. The ship landed with a quiet thud. Figures stepped out, tall and proud, dressed in the traditional blue and silver armor of the Sreya warriors. A leader approached, a tall woman, with silver hair and sharp eyes. She looked at Ilari and spoke in her native tongue. "Ilari, you have left the path of our people," she said. "You abandoned your duty and your honor by living with humans." Ilari stood tall, despite her trembling inside. "I left because my home was destroyed. I left because I wanted to survive. I chose to live with kindness, not fear." The leader's eyes narrowed. "You will come with us and answer for your actions." Nolan stepped forward, placing himself between Ilari and the warriors. "She's made a new home here, and she has earned respect. You cannot force her to leave." The leader turned to Nolan, her voice cold. "This is none of your concern, human." Ilari looked at Nolan, grateful for his protection. She faced her own people again. "I have learned much from these humans," she said. "They treat me with dignity. They do not demand my body or my soul as payment. I will not return to a life of fear." The warriors murmured among themselves. Some looked angry, others confused. The leader raised her hand. "Must choose. Return with us now, or be declared a traitor and enemy of the Sreya." Ilari took a deep breath. She knew what her choice meant. I choose to stay. The leader's expression hardened. Then you are no longer one of us. The warriors turned and boarded their ship. Before leaving, the leader gave Ilari one last look. This is not over, she said. We'll meet again. As the ship lifted off, the colony's people stared in silence. Ilari felt the weight of her decision settle on her shoulders. Nolan walked beside her. You were brave, he said quietly. Brave, she asked. Yes. I was scared. Courage isn't the absence of fear, he said. It's acting despite it. Ilari smiled weakly. Days passed. The colony returned to its usual rhythm. Ilari threw herself into her work and learning. She studied human history and culture. She practiced her language. She even started teaching some children about her people's stories. Nolan watched her grow stronger, more confident. One evening, as they sat under the twin moons, he asked, "What do you want most now?" Ilari looked up at the stars. Peace. For my people and yours. Maybe one day they can understand each other. Nolan nodded. I believe they can. With you as a bridge. Ilari smiled, feeling hope bloom inside her once more. The weeks after the Sreya warriors left were filled with quiet tension. Ilari felt the weight of her choice every day. Some colonists still doubted her, while others began to see her as a symbol of change. But no one could ignore the arrival of the second Sreya ship. This time the ship was larger, with more weapons and a serious look. It landed not far from the colony's center. The colony's council quickly called a meeting with Ilari and Nolan as the leaders of the Sreya stepped out of the ship. The crowd held its breath. Ilari recognized a woman who looked like a commander, serious and sharp-eyed. She introduced herself as Valera. We come in peace, Valera announced, but also with warning. Your presence here disturbs the balance between our peoples. Ilari stepped forward. I am here because my home was destroyed. I want peace, not war. Valera's eyes softened slightly. Then you must prove it. The Sreya and humans have lived apart for centuries. Trust has been broken. Many fear this meeting. Nolan spoke up. We understand the fear, but it's time to build trust. Ilari has shown that cooperation is possible. Valera nodded. Then let us begin. Over the next days, the Sreya leaders and human counselors met. Ilari acted as translator and mediator, explaining hopes and fears on both sides. Sometimes tensions rose, voices grew loud, but Ilari stayed calm, reminding everyone of what was at stake. One day, Ilari took Nolan aside. They don't fully trust me, she said. I am seen as a traitor by some, and a stranger by others. Normal, Nolan said. Change is never easy. But what if they never accept me? What if peace is impossible? Then we keep trying. Peace is a path, not a place. Ilari smiled faintly. She believed him. During a meeting, a young Sreya man stood up. He looked nervous but determined. I was taught to hate humans, he said. But seeing Ilari work and live with you changes. My view, maybe we can be more than enemies. The room fell silent. Many eyes softened. Hope grew over time. The meetings turned into celebrations. Food was shared. Stories were exchanged. The two peoples learned from each other. Ilari and Nolan worked side by side, building not just machines, but friendships. Their partnership became a symbol for the new alliance. One evening, under the stars, Valera approached Ilari. You have done more than anyone expected, she said. You have opened doors that were once closed. Ilari bowed her head. Thank you. I only wish to help both our peoples find peace. Valera smiled. You will have your chance. A great threat approaches our region. We must face it together. Ilari looked up, determination shining in her eyes. Then we will stand united. News came fast. A dark fleet of unknown ships approached the system, threatening to destroy everything in its path. The colony's alarms blared day and night. Panic spread like wildfire. The humans and Sreya leaders gathered urgently. Ilari and Nolan stood at the center, ready to face the crisis. We cannot fight this alone, Valera said. Our old mistrust must end. Only together can we survive. Ilari nodded. We have built bridges. Now we must cross them. Plans were made quickly. Mints and Straya shared technology and soldiers. Ilari coordinated communication between the two groups. Nolan repaired weapons and shields with her. Days turned into nights filled with preparation. The bond between the two peoples grew stronger as they faced the common enemy. Finally, the Dark Fleet arrived. Ships bigger and faster than anything anyone had seen before. They attacked without mercy. The battle was fierce. Explosions lit the sky. Lasers crossed like lightning bolts. Ships were lost on both sides. LRI stayed in the command center, guiding fighters, sending messages, and encouraging the scared. "Hold the line," she shouted over the noise. "We fight for our homes, for our futures." Nolan worked beside her, fixing damaged systems and comforting those injured. As the fight reached its peak, Laurie saw the Dark Fleet's command ship emerge. It was huge and deadly. If it was destroyed, the fleet would fall. Without hesitation, Ellery volunteered for the mission to board the enemy ship and disable its power core. Nolan insisted on going with her. Together, they sneaked aboard the dark ship, moving quietly through corridors filled with strange creatures. They reached the core room. Ilari quickly set to work on the controls while Nolan kept watch. Alarms blared suddenly. Enemy guards rushed in. "We have to move fast," Nolan yelled. Ilari finished the override just as guards closed in. A blast of light filled the room. The ship shook violently. They ran through the halls, dodging attacks. Just as they reached an escape pod, the ship began to collapse. They launched just in time. Outside, they watched as the dark command ship exploded, sending shockwaves through the enemy fleet. Without their leader, the enemy ships retreated. Defeated, the colony cheered. Humans and Sreya hugged and laughed, tears of relief streaming down their faces. Ilari looked at Nolan and smiled. "We did it, together." Nolan squeezed her hand. "You showed them the meaning of courage and trust." Days later, the colony held a ceremony. Ilari was named ambassador between the humans and Sreya. Her journey from desperate stranger to leader inspired everyone. She stood beside Nolan, looking at the crowd. "My body was once my only currency," she said softly. "Mama now. My voice, my actions, and my heart are worth so much more." The crowd applauded, a new hope shining in their eyes. Ilari knew this was just the beginning. Together, humans and Sreya would build a future of peace, respect, and friendship. And she would stand at the bridge, guiding them forward.